Hey y'all. So I was just sitting here and I was thinking, um, so let me tell y'all, I was thinking about how people are always talking about, I seen a comment, this is what caused the thought process, right? It was like something about like social accountability within the urban communities, blah 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 blah. I don't really know what the full comment was because of course me, I'm always interested in what people have to say, but then I'm always dumbfounded about the lack of research that people do when they go to talk, and how a lot of things are always one-sided in conversations. And so usually when I join into a lot of different conversations with people, I'm usually always playing devil's advocate. I'm always on the other side of the spectrum, and I do that out of habit. Like, out of habit, I always want to make sure that, 2 to 3 sides are being heard within a conversation. So needless to say, I just saw the comment. I don't know what they're gonna be talking about. I don't know these people. Look, it just popped up on my phone and I was like, okay. um but I started to think about the simple fact that, like, people always want to talk about community, number one, and social justice or injustice or whatever else, and that's their business. I have nothing to say bad about it, against it, or whatever else. But I do want people to understand that when we talk about community, you have to talk on multiple levels. It's not just one level of community. And I say that because a lot of people always want us to talk about just in particular the Black community, and not taking into consideration that the Black community is a very diverse community, and it will shift and change, and the issues and concerns are not always the same. It is based off of demographics as well. So yes, race is one piece to it, but then ageism comes to play, sexism comes into play, cultural, right, aspects, and then not even just that. Like if you live in a rural area versus metropolitan versus, whatever else, suburbs, like all of these things and have to be taken in consideration before you start talking about just a group of individuals based off of a race. And, this is how race and economics has been kind of mixed and commingled when we talk about race affairs and politics, because what people don't understand, because they always love to say, well, Black people don't da 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 da, and I'd be like, what Black people y'all talking about? Because yes, there are a lot of low income Black individuals, and yes, that can be said for certain in whatever aspects. But that same doesn't translate or cross over in every aspect. Yes, we do have some shared experiences, but it's not always the same. Even though people want to make it seem like, oh, we're all having this same exact experience. No, we're not, cousin. We're definitely not. And so I just find that interesting. Hold on, y'all. But yeah, so anyway, one of the things I was thinking about when I saw the thing pop up, right, is that even back in the day, because I like to put some historic juice on some stuff, because people are told stories based off of one person's, based off of history, right? One person's take on history, his side of the spectrum, and what they're not doing is taking in the whole story, right? So when we talk about the 1950s and 60s, and or even before that, coming up out of the Great Depression, and coming up out of slavery and then going into the Great Depression, and people kind of sleep on the Black Renaissance and all this stuff. Like, we hear about it, but schools don't really talk about it to show how great Black people were and are and will always be. They don't really talk about the Great Migration and how these people, right up from slavery, were able to still to build a culture. At the end of the day, they were able to build communities. And you hear about Black Wall Street, you hear about the that's not the one I'm thinking about either, but you hear about all these the Tuskegee or Tuscaloosa that was in New York, Tuscaloosa something. But you hear about all these small, things where black communities were burned down, but people don't talk about how thriving and how successful these black communities were. Eatonville, there was one other city that's near Miami, which was a black owned city, black founded, black owned, black established, and it was one of the black beaches, and how they lost their rights during some hurricane that came through, and you know there's a lot of uh lingos that are out there, like even when they start talking about I was gonna say reconstruction, but like even when we talk about like railroads and how railroads, if you ever notice, they separate the black and white neighborhoods in almost every ghetto that you see in the United States, and how that was strategically sought out. Like they talk about redlining, but they don't talk about to well, I can't say they don't. They talk about it, but people don't. A lot of people don't take these things in consideration when they go to talking about the destruction of the black community. Um, and even so, when they talk about Martin Luther King, and they talk about I Have a Dream, they don't talk about the other speech that he did right before, when he was like, I feel like I sent my people into a burning house, a house on fire. Because what was happening is that you had some 20-year-old, 30-year-old person, because you got to think about it, he died at like 33. They tried to make him a new Jesus. Like, they're not talking about how you had this 20-year-old person and these children, right? College students, young children in their teens, who were the ones, if you go back and look at these pictures when they were doing all this fighting for civil rights, these were all children. Yes, there were some adults, but these were all young adults, because you had these older blacks who were like, don't get into the white man's affair. Like, don't get into that bullshit, because that ain't got nothing to do with us. Like, people always come on history and talk about history. Not all. I never want to put everybody out there, but the majority don't come from the full aspect, the full black diaspora of it when they're talking, because you had a lot of blacks, older blacks, who didn't want nothing to do with civil rights, who at the end of the day, civil rights, if you really look at it, it destroyed a lot of black communities. And yes, I said it, and somebody gonna get mad, and I'm okay with that. You'll be okay. Go do your research and realize that yes, as a national level, it was kind of beneficial. It was, but then when you talk about people who always talk about black economics, what do you think you had then, when blacks could only service blacks? Like, you had black economics. Everybody wasn't going to these white people establishments and eating from the bag. You had your own community that was full of black people, that others were not excited because these blacks were thriving. I can go into here in Haines City, Florida. We go into Oakland, and you can see how the city, this little piece of the city, does not look like anything anywhere near close to what it looked like in the early 1990s. Because of course, like I said, this was a true black community. You had black people of all shades and shadows, right? All the economic standpoints, right? From the richest of the rich to the poorest of the poor, in one community. Same thing that goes in Atlanta, Georgia. If you guys go and y'all check out Martin Luther King's house and do the whole little trail, if you listen to them and the spiel that they give, they tell you that area it was a black community. It was all black people from every economic viewpoint. So you had people you had true community at that point, people who could inspire you, people you could look up to, people who looked like you, who were doctors and lawyers and who were ministers and all these other things. Whereas now, it's a struggle for you to find that right next door to you. Like, most people, you may know your neighbors, but some people you don't even socialize with your neighbors, and that is a part of your community. Yes, there's multiple communities that can be built, because now we're online. We have this international community that we're building. You have your Facebook community, your Instagram, TikTok, YouTube community, but your physical community that is right next door to you, a lot of you don't even know the people who live next door, much less down the street or whatever have you. But that is also a part of your community. So when I hear people talking about community, or even when I hear people talking about young people and their inabilities to do certain things, or what they go through, or oh, they're just so they cry about everything, or blah blah blah. You have to think about the community that was built, or that was surrounding you, that helped to create who you are. Like I have to give all thanks to all of the individuals who played a role in my life, because my community was so beneficial to the person who I became, the person I'm becoming, the person that I'm ever evolving into. Um, and it's just very important, y'all. I'm probably gonna stop this real quick because my phone is about to die. I got like 5% battery. She done got real dark, can't even see myself on the screen no more. But I just wanted to say a little bit about this, and definitely gonna have to come back and have another conversation about community and these different aspects about it, historically about it, right now. But like I was saying, the people that raised me, not just my parents, not just my family, but the other people that surrounded me as a community, they all played a major role. And I got a book that's coming out. It's about some of the women that raised me. That's coming. But I want to definitely build community. I want to expose young people to different career opportunities. And when I say young people, I do mean everyone, but most certainly people of color, the people that I service, Hispanics, blacks, all of this is inclusive in this. But I want to talk to people who have different career types, who don't mind talking about what it took for them to get into their sphere of area, scope of area, and who are willing to inspire the next generation, so that the people can see themselves, so that they can know what's available to them. But again, y'all, phone dying. I digress. I'll come back to y'all shortly. Love y'all. See y'all later.